ladies and gentlemen, for being on time. We've kept very good time, and the good people online are here with us. My name is Esther Kagamba, and I'm the Marketing and Communications Officer at Takaful Insurance of Africa. Very delighted to be your host today for the Takaful Talks webinar series. Today we are having the topic of coping with anxiety and managing a work-life balance. With me, I think my good people have their cameras on. We do have our Sharia manager at Takaful Insurance. His name is Mohammed Aladini. Welcome to today's webinar, Mr. Aladini. Uh,
Thank
Good. Also, we have Philomena Thomas. Philomena Thomas is our care coordinator at Takaful Insurance. So they work very closely with anybody who has a medical cover at Takaful Insurance. We would have good chance spoken to Philomena. Thank you so much for being here. Welcome to our webinar. And then we do have the Sasa Doctors team, who are our partner for this webinar. We have Eric Donye. Donye, I don't think I can see you on the video, but that's okay. Eric is the head of marketing and strategy at Sasa Doctor, and of course, they'll be taking us through who they are and what they are all about. Very excited to have them on board. Then we do have Oscar Othiambo, one of our panelists, and one of the people giving us a great contribution to the conversation we'll be having today. Oscar is a counseling psychologist consultant, also with Sasa Doctors. Thank you so much, Oscar, for being here. Welcome to our webinar. Last but not least, we have Yvonne Kajuju. Yvonne Kajuju today is at work as she's also trying to address us and help us with our webinar today. Thank you so much for your sacrifice, Yvonne. Yvonne is a psychiatrist, clinical officer, also working with Sasa Doctor. Having introduced our panel, and I think we will choose to start with good time. Allow me to give to the floor our Sharia and compliance manager, Mr. Mohammed Aledini. Karibu sana.
thank you so much, Esther, for having me. It's a great pleasure and opportunity to share with you what's all about Takaful. And this is just a golden opportunity to explain briefly about Takaful. And from this webinar, we hope, inshallah ta'ala, you will get something and you can also share with the rest, inshallah, once you learn from us. Allow me to share my presentation, inshallah. I hope my presentation is visible. Esther, is it visible?
Yes, it's visible, but it's coming through the from the last page. So
Okay, okay,
there you go.
okay. This is just an introduction to TIA business model. And before we go to TIA business model, let us just have an overview about Takaful. What is Takaful literally meaning and the technical meaning? This is just an Arabic term. Takaful is an Arabic term which is derived from the word kafala. Kafala means to guarantee or to help each other. So that is the key word of takaful, means to guarantee and also to help one another. From my explanation, you will understand how takaful help one another at the same time guarantee one another. So, in technical meaning, very briefly, takaful refers to an arrangement of mutual solidarity and indemnity that protects members who face defined risk and damages. For example, when uh, it's come to protecting of a risk, they are the members who come together contributing something which is called uh, the premium, or in the Sharia compliance way, it is a contribution, whereby it is kept in a specific account, which is called the pool, and from that money which is used to indemnify in case of any risk happen among the members or the participants. So from the EOFI standard, number 26 has explained in detail how takaful or Islamic insurance is formed. It starts with the process of agreement among a group of persons. It means there are a number of people who come together and form that system. It is either can be informal, whereby a group of family members come together to contribute something and indemnify in case of any among the members who had any risk. But a formal way, it is initiated by involving the payment of contribution, which is now its form as a donation. And that why it is considered as donation, because, for example, if one of the members have contributed, let's say 50,000, and have a risk or let's say a claim of 500,000, remember that 50,000 which has been contributed by the member is not sufficient to pay for claim worth 500,000. So in this case, other members has to donate portion of that money in order to assist the other person who has claim, because him alone cannot afford to pay for his claim. So at the same time, saying it led to the establishment of an insurance fund that enjoy the status of a legal entity and has independent financial liability. It means this money, which has been kept in a specific pool, is used to pay for claims and any other related expenses. So the resources, in addition to that, and in order to improve the capacity, it has to be invested. And the only way to invest that money, it is through the Sharia compliant ventures. Because since it is a Sharia compliant business, which is takaful cannot invest the money in a conventional bank, for example, or non-Sharia compliant or unethical investments. So the fund is managed by either a selected group of policyholders. It means those policyholders or participants can appoint one among them to manage that fund, or it can be managed by a joint stock company, which is, let's say, Takaful Insurance of Africa, which is now our organization, has been appointed by these policyholders or the participants to manage the funds on their behalf. So in this case, the Takaful operator, because of the role given by the participant, is entitled to receive a specific fee, which is called agency fee. So in this case, the only money that takaful operator benefits, it is through that policyholder portion, not all. Unlike conventional insurance, whereby when the policyholder pay the premium now belongs to the insurance. In case of any claim, now the insurance company will pay the claim from their money, not from the policyholders' money, because they have exchanged between the risk and the premium. In conventional, you see that the risk is transferred to the insurer, which is the takaful insurance company. Unlike Islamic insurance, whereby the risk is shared among the participants. You have seen from the definition that the donation which is now paid from each member to assist the rest, it is that model of sharing the risk. Not only one person who is entitled to pay the claim, it is the entire member, because the money now is obtained from the pool to pay in any claim in case happen among the participants. Now, in our model, as takaful operators, let me explain how we operate as a Sharia compliant entity. And in case of a question, please ask. I will explain in detail in case maybe I leave one of those elements. So I have just put in numbers. I want to show exactly how we operate as Takaful company. Number one, you see that, for example, let's say you want a motor private insurance cover from Takaful. In this case, for example, you come to Takaful in any branch and you presented yourself plus all the KYC documents required. Once we are satisfied, we ask you to pay the contribution. And this contribution form one of the key pillars of Takaful insurance operation. Because if this contribution is not paid on time, and you wait until, for example, you have a claim, once you come during that claim and maybe you have not paid any contribution, that transaction turns to gambling, because now you are paying your contribution in order to get more. So it turns to gambling, and it nullify the concept of takaful, because takaful is against the element which is called riba, interest, gambling, and also uncertainty are eliminated in this model. I will explain to you how we eliminate it as well. So that contribution obtained from the participant, in addition to the amount paid by the shareholders, now form the takaful model, form the takaful company. So this contribution paid, number two, when you look at number two, is that since takaful operator is appointed as agent to manage the fund of the participant, is entitled to receive certain fee, which you now call fee, a wakala fee or agency fee. So it's a portion from the contribution. Let's say your car value, according to the car value, you are required to pay, let's say, 50,000. From our model, that the money or the contribution is split into half, into two portions equally, 50-50. So 50% will be paid to Takaful as the agency fee. The rest, which is now 25, will be put in a pool which is called the participant risk fund, and it is donated, or it is treated as donation or tabarru in Arabic term. So that wakala fee paid by the contributors or the participant is now taken, which is number three, taken by takaful operator, and it is considered as income, which is now used for expenses, let's say management expenses, to pay salary, to pay utilities, and so on and so forth. So in this case, now takaful operator has already taken its share, nothing else, unless now we come to another step. I'll explain how also takaful operator are benefited from the other funds. So now from the risk fund, this one which is number 5, in addition to shareholder fund number 7, now this money, in order to improve the capacity of the fund, is invested in Sharia compliant businesses or ventures like a sukuk called Islamic bond or Islamic shares, fixed deposit with Islamic banks, and many other Sharia compliant ventures, either mutual fund and so on and so forth. So now the profit from that investment is shared between takaful operator and also participants. So in our model, 45% of the profit generated from that investment is now paid to takaful operator, while the remaining, which is 55, is paid or is kept in the risk fund to improve the capacity of that kit. Because If that fund is equal, is less, let's say, or inefficient, it creates problem to the takaful operation, and we shall see how this money can be also improved in other way. So now the profit, which is 45% taken by takaful operator, at the same time is divided into two. The other portion returned to the shareholders, the other one which is retained by takaful operator, also to improve the capacity of its fund in order to manage the business very well. So these two accounts are separated. It is a requirement to ensure that wakala fee is kept in a different account, and also participant risk fund is also kept in a different account. So there's a segregation of funds in takaful model. And it is a Sharia requirement, as I said. Now, let's say number 9, when that money from the participants, which is called risk fund, it is used to pay for claim, retakaful, reservation, and many other expenses incurred. In case, for example, the risk fund is insufficient, it's not enough to pay the claim. Maybe that year a number of claim increased, so it reduced the capacity of that funds. So the only source whereby takaful operator will be required, according to the Sharia principle, it's only to borrow from the shareholder funds, which is number 17, or sorry, number 1. It has to borrow from there. So when you look at number 14, you see in case the fund in the risk fund is not enough, so the only source it is from the shareholders fund. So shareholders will lend, or will lend a benevolent or interest-free loan to the risk funds, and that money will be repaid from the future profit. So let's say this year risk fund has borrowed from the shareholder funds, and from its investment it has gotten enough profit, or a big profit, which is enough to pay shareholder funds. So that profit will not be kept in the risk fund. It will only be channeled or pay back the shareholders fund. So that's the only source, unlike conventional, whereby they will borrow from a conventional bank, and which is called the interest-based lending. So in Islamic takaful or Islamic insurance, so they will only borrow from the shareholder funds. And in case, for example, that year there were fewer claim. So it means there is called the underwriting profit, which is called the surplus. Now that surplus, from the Sharia perspective, it has to be returned to the participant, because that money belongs to the participant or the policy holders. So it will be returned to them. And the only participants who are entitled to receive that surplus are the ones who have not benefited from any claim. It means they had not gotten any claim in that year. So those participants who have benefited from claim, they will not receive the surplus, because you cannot benefit twice. From the Sharia perspective, you cannot benefit twice. So it's only way, either claim or surplus. So those who have claim, they will not get any surplus. From also Sharia perspective, is that also the takaful operator, number 11, takaful operator is also entitled to receive a portion of the surplus. Why? In case it has incurred related costs in terms of finding out those rightful participants, and also writing of checks, payment through M-Pesa. So in case it has incurred cost, so takaful operator also entitled to receive a certain portion of surplus. And number 12, here we see that that surplus is given to participants as a gift. Why it is a gift? Because there are different opinion from the Sharia scholars. Are they entitled, who are entitled to receive that subsidy? So in order to avoid that one, according to a model, we decided that we give that surplus to the rightful participant in form of a gift. And it is only given the surplus after calculation through our actual manager who decided, and also approval by the regulator and our Sharia Supervisory Council. So you see here from number the profit which is given to the shareholders, it is regarded as a dividend, and it's also either retained or given back to the shareholders. So in case, for example, we try to look for those participants, the rightful participants who are entitled to receive surplus, and we didn't get. Maybe we look for 5 years or 10 years. According to the Sharia principle, is that that money will be retained or returned to the risk fund, and in case any time the rightful participant come to claim their surplus, it is uh, uh, it is a requirement that they have to be given their surplus because it is their money. It is their money. So this is just a brief uh, business model, how we operate as a Takaful insurance company here in Kenya. So just to summarize what I have said is that Takaful operator, the model of Takaful, is that it is a model of risk sharing among the participants through their contribution they have paid. At the same time, in case of any surplus, they are entitled to receive that surplus. The only source of money in case of high claim, it is only through the shareholders fund, which is given as a benevolent loan, and it is paid through the future profit. And Takaful operator is only benefited from agency fee and in case of any profit generated from that investment. So the money in our model, the contribution paid is not owned by Takaful operator. It is owned by the participant themselves, while Takaful operator is appointed as agency to manage that fund well, and it's rewarded through the agency fee. So this is just a brief about our model, and that's Mark's end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.
Very well spoken, Alidini. We appreciate you trying to condense this into 15 minutes because we actually planning on having a Takaful conference where we can have, more, we are open to giving longer, a description of who we are. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, fantastic. Now, I think, as Takaful, it was to summarize what you've just said. You've talked about we give surplus sharing. Takaful is about mutual protection. There is transparency. There's no gambling. There is no interest. And what also we take pride in is that we have double regulation. Apart from falling under the Insurance Regulatory Authority, IRA, we also have our internal Sharia Supervisory Board. So it's important for people to actually know that they can have issues addressed by the board. Thank you so much, Ali Dini. So I think it's a good time to give the floor to Philomena. Philomena Thomas is our care coordinator at Akaful Insurance. Um, you have 5 minutes, Philomena, so it will be brilliant if you kept time. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. For me, I'm passionate about mental wellness because I'm in the care team. I'm able to see the different claims that come into our department. And when we talk about mental wellness, we realize that it is connected in the fact that family, work, social, and things we have no control over affect our mental wellness. So when you talk about personal and friends and family, we as Takafu are a family, and you find that we have different personalities within the work office, and we have different ways in which we work. And therefore, you may find that people may clash, or sometimes that may hinder us to actually work in cohesion if we are not able to understand each other, because this brings an understanding and helps us get self-awareness and to help us work together in a better way. This applies also to our family setups. You find that you have different children who have different personalities. Each child wants to be treated differently. They actually look at you at a pillar on how you are handling situations and how you handle stress. So it is very paramount that the way you carry yourself may be reflective of how possibly they will adopt those skills to manage their stress in different setups. Something else that really affects our mental wellness is health. Uh, when we talk about health, different people have different health issues. There are those that are acute, that is where you get sick over a period of time, a short period of time, and there are those that are chronic. So mental wellness comes in where um, someone is finding ways of coping with the disease process. If it is a flu, from the time you get that flu to the time you heal, how you are able to cope with that and juggle all that together with your work and your personal life. Also, learning to live with the disease. There are those diseases that are not curable, and just for some, they get frustration from taking the medications for dealing with the stresses that come with the disease where there are flare ups. And therefore, it is important to take this whole, topic very seriously, because ultimately it will affect how you'll carry or be able to perform your work. Dealing with unexpected is something else that is also affecting our mental status. And when I talk about the unexpected, it means those things that we do not have control. And this may come in form of death, and one is not able to actually come up with a strategy, if I may call it that way, of how to deal with the loss of someone and how to explain it if it is to your family members of the younger ones within the family. That applies also to a relative who is sick, especially for those who are hospitalized for long. There's a strain when it comes to finances, also emotional strain when, and the worry that and anxiety that comes with it. Um, Again, we also talk about our personal care, and in this, you find that um, when really you're so bombarded with so many things and you don't take time to reflect, you find that possibly you're not doing your exercises, there's no personal growth, circumstances keep changing. Nothing is constant. And so if you're not able to evaluate the circumstances in which you are at that particular time, you may find that you actually have mental, I would call it mental fogginess, and you're not able to perform well in your work. Sometimes it may be very subtle. You are not able to actually know that you actually are facing a bit of depression, and you may be tired. You may be getting agitated or irritated by very small things, or even forgetting. Uh, so this webinar is very important because I think it will create some awareness. I know people say what you don't know won't hurt you, but I'm not sure that we can ride on that, because science has proven again and again that you can't defy some things. For instance, gravity. If a child does not understand about gravity and jumps from a chair, I don't think they will fly just because they do not know that. So I think it is up to us as adults to actually come with an open mind to learn so that we are able to reach our potential, our maximum potential from learning how to cope with different situations in our lives, because there's nothing that is constant, and issues will always crop up. That is inevitable. I think that is what I'll leave. We are looking forward to this talk from Sasa. Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Philomena, for walking us through to one of the reasons why we come to have our our webinars. Um, and at this juncture, I want to introduce Mr. Eric Donge. Eric Ndonye. Eric Ndonye is the head of marketing and strategy at Sasa Doctor. We have a great partnership with Sasa Doctor, and they offer a hybrid of service where they have an in-person consultation, and also they do virtual support to enable patients to access quality and very convenient healthcare. So, Mr. Eric Ndonya, the floor is yours. Do have a floor, tell us more about Sasa Doctor.
All right. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me well and clear.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Good, good. Good afternoon, everyone. And thanks to Takaful for making us a preferred partner in terms of telemedicine and also in terms of this particular mental wellness webinar. We're very grateful to be here. My name is Eric Ndonye, Head of Strategy Marketing from Sasa Doctor. I'm going to take you through a very brief description of who we are as Sasa Doctor for you to get to understand why we are here today. And I'm going to share a few slides. It won't take much. So thank you very much, and you can follow through. Right, Sasa Doctor, we say we are a HIPAA accredited social enterprise. HIPAA means Health Insurance Portability Accountability Act, means that we are accredited by the highest standards in terms of data protection and privacy globally. Yeah, so HIPAA is one of those bodies that accredit one telemedicine companies globally, and we are happy to say that we are compliant. Secondly, we are end-to-end social enterprise and healthcare company that is licensed by KMPDC, Pharmacy and Poisons Board, KMTTLB, that is for laboratories, and that is to mean that Sasa Doctor, one, runs an application available on Play Store and App Store, whereby you as a patient can comfortably consult with the doctor from the comfort of your home. And secondly, also we combine that, and that's why Esther mentioned earlier that we have a hybrid model where we combine both telemedicine and physical clinics. That is to say that we have physical clinics across the country, and also I've mentioned that we have a licensed pharmacy, licensed laboratory to be able to offer these services as and when they're needed. Of course, through the application is available on Android for Play Store users, iOS for iPhone users, and also USSD for those guys who do not have smartphones. Moving on, also, as Sasa Doctor, our goal out there is the wellness of our clients, and we combine that with different services. One is that we do medication delivery countrywide. Yeah. Secondly, we also operate 24 hours, both on the Sasa Doctor application, which is available on Play Store, App Store, as I had mentioned earlier, and also physically in our clinics that we run across the country, the physical medical clinics. Thirdly, I mentioned we do telemedicine and other concierge services. That is guided by our mission as Sasa Doctor. which is to provide affordable, universally accessible, and good quality healthcare to all Kenyans. And I will be able to speak about that as we proceed. Our vision, of course, is using technology of virtual care supplemented or complemented by physical clinics and having different access points so that we can make sure that we provide good quality primary medical care to all that is affordable and accessible 24/7. Our solution, and I would urge everybody who is participating in this webinar today to create time and go and download Sasa Doctor application from those different platforms I've mentioned so that you can experience this. But what we are saying is that once you are on the Sasa Doctor application, you're able to have live video consultations with a doctor right on the application. And that is very important because mostly when we're interacting with technology, we have AI behind the technology, artificial intelligence behind the technology. What's different with Sasa Doctor? Once you come to the application, you realize that it's a provider-mediated technology where you're going to interact with an actual person on the other side, just the same way I'm having this conversation with you today through this webinar. So you're able to have a live video consultation, and from there, the doctor able to give a diagnosis, which can be a prescription, labs, or diagnostics. So that is to say that we are a provider-mediated application, not a tech-mediated technology. Our promise as Sasa Doctor is guided by 4 pillars. One, which is that we do not overprescribe. Our practice is geared towards practicing good medicine. Practicing good medicine is where the doctor, of course, ensures they give you only what you require to make you better tomorrow. That is, we don't overprescribe in terms of medication. And ultimately, what this does is to make sure that access to healthcare for you as a patient is affordable. We do not overtest. Of course, our doctors do not have an incentive to overtest you when you are referred either for a physical examination or labs in our physical facilities. Our doctors do not overtest. Quality assurance. You might want to ask, how do I know that the doctors practicing on the Sasa Doctor application are locally accredited? So we make sure that one, they are locally accredited, and we make sure that they are continuously subjected to quality assurance standards and training to make sure that they are able to give you a quality diagnosis once you come onto the application. Secondly, if you take time to go to the application, you realize that we display their practicing license so that if you want to query from a medical board's website whether this is a Kenyan doctor, you're able to pick that number, go and find whether this is a locally accredited. And this to make sure that we do not bring quacks onto the application. Under quality assurance as well, we make sure that they are trained thoroughly before they come to the application. And then fourthly, we make sure that we're giving you on-demand healthcare. What does this mean? It means that you're able to get access to a doctor as and when you need them 24/7. The fact that these doctors are available virtually, once you're on the application, at any given point in time, you'll always have a doctor to assist you. Sometimes we result into self-medication while at home because you have a headache. We're saying, no, you don't have to do that, because sometimes you get reaction from medication because you picked a medication off the shelves in your house. So why not get to the application, get the quality doctor's advice, and proceed to take the medication? So we make sure that our doctors are available on demand. This is just a display of the different services available in Sasa Doctor, and you're able to experience our services. Of course, I mentioned that we have physical clinics spread across the country, whereby you can be attended to if you've been seen virtually by the doctor and they have recommended for a physical session. Of course, we have different programs under Sasa Doctor, which provides unlimited virtual consultation, whereby once you are in that particular program, you get unlimited consultations via the Sasa Doctor application for a whole year. More or less, this works like how you subscribe to DSTV, how you subscribe to Zuku or even Netflix. We have such programs so that we make sure that you can get access to a doctor at any given time. Of course, the prepaid medical program, which is unlimited virtual consultation, gives you access to unlimited consultation with all of those practitioners, as you can see displayed there. And most importantly, and specifically for this particular discussion, is access to psychologists for psychosocial support. We're saying that you don't have to struggle at home, at school, at the office, when you can just go to your phone, download the application, and get quality advice from psychologists that we have on the applications. And some of them will be speaking to you immediately after this for you to have a glimpse of what exactly you get once you consult with them on the platform. Of course, I've talked about our subscription program, which you're able to directly, purchase it right on the application and get access to our doctors. Of course, we take cognizance of the fact that not everything can be fully diagnosed via telemedicine. However, we over 60% of normal ailments, and you can see we've listed them there for you to see diarrhea, coughs, UTIs, and all of that, malaria, TB, chronic conditions can be fully diagnosed via telemedicine. This is to say that you don't have to feel afraid of what will happen, or will I get healed if I get consultation via the application. We're saying over 60% of diseases can be fully diagnosed via telemedicine. We're not just limited to telemedicine, as I mentioned. We have physical clinics where other services can be offered, post-op counseling, family planning, nutrition, pharmacy counseling, COVID-19. All these programs can be offered through Sasa Doctor. We run chronic disease management programs. Don't feel that you're squeezed to spend every time you go and purchase medication for chronic condition. We're saying that once you come to Sasa Doctor, we're able to manage your conditions holistically, from getting unlimited consultations to medication refills, and also continuous monitoring from our doctors. Those are other benefits you'll be able to get from Sasa Doctor. We have, as I mentioned, a licensed pharmacy that dispenses medication countrywide. Even in Turkana, Samburu, Isiolo, you can order medication right on the application, and we'll deliver it to you for any medication above 2,500. We have also labs where we're able to provide lab services. This brings me to the end of this presentation as I open the forum to our speakers for the day, and I hand over back to Esther. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eric. Number one, trying very hard to keep time, and giving us a great breakdown of who you are as a doctor. Now to the first panelist is Oscar Uthiambo. Oscar, who is a counseling psychologist consultant with Sasa Doctor. Oscar is a professional and licensed counseling psychologist consultant with a passionate interest in the field of psychology and the helping professional in the field of research. He's dedicated to serving clients in a meaningful way, listening to their concerns and helping them learn how to approach all their mental, emotional, and behavior problems. Oscar provides excellent psychotherapeutic help to facilitate social, vocational, and personal adjustment to allow clients to lead a more meaningful, and fulfilling life. Oscar is a consultant psychologist with Kisa Wellness and psychosocial support services. He works with the Modern Health, a US-based organization that works in Kenya and select psychologists in providing mental health services at their clients around the world. And also works as a volunteer with the Mind Clinic, that is a Nigerian-based clinic that provide psychosocial support to the victims of rape and sexual abuse. Last but not least, Oscar also owns his own practice called the Peace and Tranquility psychology group, right? I think that's a great summary of Oscar. The floor is yours.
Hello, you can hear me? Just hello, you can hear me? Okay, Sorry about that. Technical difficulties, but now everything is okay. So allow me to use Eric's. So as I was saying, my name is Oscar Diembo. I'm a counseling psychologist, just as introduced. And today we're going to talk about building resilience, work-life balance, and stress management. So, and just what we were saying, just as Eric was saying, uh, Sasa Doctors is all about, the from the four pillars. uh, we don't really do over prescription, because over prescription, that's something really important, especially in mental health. Over prescription, over testing, or even over, over just everything about over, it's something that we don't do. So I'll touch on that even as we continue, but allow me to start with the slides. So we're going to talk about resilience. So what is resilience? So resilience is our ability to adapt well and recover after stress, adversity, trauma, and tragedy. All right. So resilient people are better able to maintain wellness in face of life challenges. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is you realize that in life there's usually a lot happens. There's usually a lot about death, accidents. We lose people really close and significant to our lives, and our ability to couple with these situations, this is what is called resilience. So less resilient people are more likely to dwell on problems, feel overwhelmed, use unhealthy coping tactics to handle stress, and develop anxiety and depression. And resilience, now in short, resilience means being able to bounce back. All right. So, and there are four characteristics of resilience. So, first one is control. Second one is commitment. Third one is challenge, and the fourth one is connection. So, any resilient person has these four characteristics. And the first one is control. Control is all about, in life, there are things that you'll not be able to control. There are things that will happen that will get you off guard. So you understanding that there are things that you can actually influence and there are things that you can't really influence. There are things in your reach. You see, like, let's say your arm, there are things you can actually reach, and there are things that you cannot manipulate. So always also understanding in any situation that you get yourself into, what can I actually do about this situation? Because there's some situations which you cannot do anything about, and that's what you're saying. And the second thing is about commitment. So holding on to your values, those things that you hold close. So it's like, what is your purpose in life? And also commitment, I would say commitment is also embedded with something about, do you have a spiritual connection? Because realize the first thing we said it was control. Then commitment is, it involves your purpose. Why do you do what you do, such that in life, for those things that you don't have control over, so how do you talk to yourself about such things? And that's what you're saying. And the third thing is challenge, such that in life you'll expect challenges, expecting barriers, and hurdles, and always learning, always having that mind that you may fall the first time, but this thing will not get you the second time. So always learning and appreciating that you will meet challenges. Yes, you will fall, but you can always pick up yourself, and also have in mind that when faced with the same situation again, you won't fall down. Then the fourth one is connection. So developing a social network, a strong social network, friends, family. These are the people who you can go to when you're feeling low. People who you can talk to, people who would provide that support. All right. So then there are four strategies for resilience. So this thing about being bouncing back. So there are four strategies. You realize that in any medical setup, and especially in Sasa Doctor, we stand by these principles, such that you are understood in four aspects. We can say that you are understood as a biological being, a social being, a psychological being, and also a spiritual being. You have these four aspects. Any human being cannot be understood without these four things. And so now, for you to be resilient, you have to incorporate all of these four things. And this is what we're saying, the strategies. How can you be resilient while incorporating these four things? And the first, about mental, this is psychological, is thinking positively, keeping perspective about the problem, taking clear and decisive actions, accept that you cannot change, accept the things that you cannot change and the things that you can change. You can also set goals and take concrete small steps towards achieving these goals. And this is just all mental, having a mental note, having those clear short strategies of achieving the goals that you've set. Then staying flexible, learn what you can from past experiences, and staying in the moment, being mindful. And we will touch more about staying in the moment, being mindful, because being mindful can really help you to deal with the stresses that you're dealing with. The second strategy is about the physical strategies. Now, what can you do to be more resilient physically? Enjoying, relaxing, and doing activities that you enjoy. That helps you to, it helps you to unwind. And also exercise, then regular restful sleep patterns, limiting caffeine and alcohol and sugar. And let me just touch on something about regular restful sleep patterns. You realize that athletes and sportsmen are told that you should practice for you to get better at what you're doing. But then you're also told that you should also get enough rest so that you can be effective in this craft that you're trying to. If you want to be a better footballer, you need to practice, then get enough rest so that you can be refreshed when you come back to practice, so you can do it better. And this is what we're saying, such that we find that for some of them, actually for most mental disorder, even depression, you find that there's either too much sleep or less sleep, which is insomnia, or hypersomnia. So now that leads to, if there's a disturbance in the sleeping patterns or even the eating patterns, then that can point us to, you can say that you're not resilient enough. And now you can use the strategies for being resilient to be more resilient, right? Then the third one is emotional strategies, identifying feelings, needs, and how to express them. You realize that some people do not know how to express their feelings, such that when you're frustrated, you become destructive. If anger management issues, this is where they're coming from. Then nurture a positive view about yourself, your self-image. Find and express humor. Humor is very important. Laughter is very important. It gives us the joy in life. Then work on accepting and adapting to change faster. Maintain a positive outlook of life. This is very important in emotional strategies. Then behavioral is more like just the physical, avoiding risky behaviors and lifestyles like drunken driving, like having going to prioritize, set limits to exposure, limit exposure to stresses such as repetitive media coverage about coronavirus or monkeypox or any, because you find that if you constantly expose yourself to alarming news, you'll be constantly on high alert. Then take time away from screens and input. Just enjoy nature. Walk around, enjoy nature. That is very important. And that's what I'm saying right now. So now the skills for building resilience, we can say they fall into two categories. There's distress tolerance and then there's mindfulness. So distress tolerance is our ability to tolerate distress, right? Now that is distress tolerant, our ability to tolerate distress. And it has two aspects of it: radical acceptance and distraction. So radical acceptance is basically you acknowledging that whatever has already happened and you cannot do anything to change the past, but you do have a role to play in deciding the course of the future. And it's it's just accepting the situation without being judgmental or critical about yourself. It's saying that I cannot change what has already happened, but I have an influence of how this thing is going to turn out. So, and the second thing was distraction. You can distract yourself. Let's say you're having an argument with someone, right? And you know the next thing that you're going to say is going to be really hurtful, or you know that the more you stay there, you might be violent. So you can distract yourself from the outcome by leaving that, by just walking away, by going to cool down, so that when you come back you'll have a clear mind to address whatever you're dealing with. And there are other strategies, distracting yourself from self-destructive behaviors, from with pleasurable activities. What do you enjoy doing? Let's say when you're stressed, what do you do? Do you go to play basketball? Do you go to play football? Do you go to play PlayStation? What do you like doing? Do you go to cook, to bake? Some people have these strategies when they are really stressed. This is what they do this is what they do to get their mind off things, and this is very important. And then also mindfulness just helps us experience more fully the present. I mean, being mindful, let's say, how are you mindful at this moment? Being mindful is just recognizing what is happening in the present moment. What are you seeing? Being mindful with all your five senses. The thing that you're touching, the pain that you're touching, is it how is it feeling? If you're chewing bubble gum or if you're chewing gum, how is the taste in your mouth? That is very important, and that's the skill of both mindfulness. All right. And now, maybe if you have questions, they'll come towards the end. So the second thing is about work-life balance. So you find that resilience is also tied towards work-life balance. How do you manage? As you can see this picture of this guy on the. This guy is trying to balance between work and life. So basically, work life balance is just the management of work and life responsibility without each affecting the other. All right. So, and work life conflict is when one interferes with the other one. So, let's say work interferes with your life, or your social responsibilities interfere with your work responsibility. And this is what I'm saying right now. So, work life balance, you find that poor work life balance poses risk to the well being of the employees, their performance, the organizational performance. Poor work life balance will affect your entire functioning, right? Because you find that the average person spends almost I can say 40% of their day at work, or their economic activity. So it is important to balance the time spent outside work, which includes family relationships and other personal relationships and hobbies. So what is the importance of work-life balance? Having a work-life balance helps to reduce stress and the chances of burnout. And burnout is it's something that is critical, especially if you are burned out, you will not be effective in either work or your social responsibilities. You find that you are constantly, and burnout it's a mixture of stress and long working hours. So let's say if you're working 12 hours a day and you're having constant stress, you'll get, in fact, there's a disorder called emotional fatigue. You'll get emotionally fatigued, and that's the extreme of burnout, which is why it's very important for you to put your work life balance in check, work life in check. And employees face a lot of problems like depression, anxiety, health issues like pain, heart problems, and hypertension. So burnout is especially caused when one works for a long time and has continued stress. All right. So that is why it is very important for you to have a healthy work-life balance. And how can you have a healthy work-life balance? Having flexible working hours, and have some time off from work. Example, during the weekends. So are you that one person whom, even on Saturday, on Sunday, even during the holidays when you're not at work, you are constantly trying to be at work? So let time away from work be time away from work. We could also exercise. Medical experts say 90 minutes of slightly intense exercise a week is very important. And I say 30 minutes every day for 5 days of exercise is important for your health. And good mental health translates to good physical health, and good physical health translates to good mental health. All right. So also set priorities, take holiday trips, take retreats when it's time. And this is very important, especially for people who are working. It is very important, such that if you have your leave days and you're taking your leave days, take this leave day for you to go and visit Masai Mara. Just relax. Don't go and start another business as you're waiting to come back to this business, because life is more than just work. You are very important, because let's say if you were to be sacked, let's say today, your boss will find a replacement, but you will not find a replacement for yourself. And this is what I'm saying. So get sufficient sleep, leave work pressure at work, and when you go home, be that father, be that mother, be that spouse. Practice mindfulness. Know when to say no, be assertive, and schedule one activity you look forward to for a day. So let's say, what do you look forward to tomorrow? So schedule that activity every day, something that you look forward to. Then benefits of a balanced work-life balance: you become motivated. There's better levels of efficiency. It increases productivity. It decreases absence due to sickness and stress. There's improved customer support. There's success in achieving your goals, and you become happy. You become really happy because you're able to manage all these things. And you find that if if now if home, so now this is very important. That's why we're talking about now. The third thing is about stress management. So how do you manage stress? And maybe the best way for us to handle this is, let's talk what is stress. you know what is this stress that you're talking about? You hear people saying that I'm stressed, I'm feeling stressed, and I don't know what I'm going to do. So stress is a way human reacts to both physically and mentally to challenges. We find that we are constantly stressed, we are constantly in stress, and we find that unless we address this, what these stresses are, we'll find that this stress, if it becomes extreme, it may lead to depression, because if unchecked. And there's two types of stress. There's this stress and there's eustress. So eustress, this is the good stress, and this stress, this is the bad stress. Let me give an example. So let's say you have kids who are in school, and you need to pay for them school fees, and if you don't pay for them school fees, then they will be sent home. So this is good. I would say this is good stress, because this will motivate you to go out and keep working so that you can provide for your family. Bad stress, on the other hand, is whereby we are confronted by a situation, but you feel you have inadequate resources to handle that situation. All right. And this is very important. This is very important, and that's what I'm saying. So and this is what we're talking about now. This is when this stress becomes an issue. So stress is a fact of life, and stress cannot be avoided. However, you can learn to manage it so that it does not manage you. Because if stress manages you, then you will be in a chaotic place. So there is normal life changes, like getting married, our kids going to college, having an emptiness, changing jobs, illnesses. These are normal things in life, and these are usually frequent sources of stress. You realize that these changes are not necessarily bad, because they show advancement in life. The reaction is usually based on your perception on the situation. So if you view a situation negatively, you will be distressed, overwhelmed, oppressed, and out of control. And this is just this is just a question. Probably you can reflect on it, such that you realize that, maybe let's say that two people in life, there are two people, and they have both gone through same situation, but you find that this one person, they managed to negotiate that problem in a healthy way, such that they were not affected. Yes, in as much as they might have undergone through a season of low moods, or maybe let's say they might have gone through depression at that moment, but they managed to overcome it in a period, or let's say in a period of 2 weeks or a month. But then there's somebody who has been stuck there for, let's say, a year. Same situation. So you find that it's a mixture of resilience, let's say work-life balance, and also the the ability of this person to manage stress. So that's why we're saying it's about the individual differences. So now when we put into consideration the individual differences, what are the capacities that you have towards solving this problem? That's what makes it rich, because you find that the resources that this person had and the resources that you have to solve that problem are way different. Let's say the family support. That's just as you were saying, connection, family support, and also the the commitment, that your insight realization that this I can change, this I cannot change. The forces of resilience, that is very important towards stress management. And there's somebody who say that sometimes the problem is not usually the problem, but our perspective about the problem. That's what makes it a problem. I usually tell most of the clients that I meet that you have the solutions within you, and you find that therapy is not usually me, the therapist, giving you advice on what you should do, but therapy is usually me helping you come to a better point of insight, me helping you come to a better point of how you can use the resources that you have to meet the change that you want to get. And that is very important. So what are the causes of stress? Basically, stress, no matter what the stress is, they're usually caused by let's say three things. Let's say change. You're experiencing the unsettling effects of change, the feelings that an outside force is challenging or threatening you. Then the third one is feeling that you have lost personal control. So you find that you'll be stressed if you experience one of the threes, or even both, or even all of them. So the symptoms of stress, the physical symptoms, the headaches, the fatigues, gastrointestinal problems, hypertension, anxiety, sexual problems, you're experiencing problems in the because you not perform if you are stressed, irritability. You find that you're constantly moody, you find that your wife is constantly moody. I mean, you just or your husband, you find that of late they are just irritable. You ask them a simple question, they respond with they respond in hostility. So you find that there's also disruptive eating patterns, increased drinking or smoking, inability to focus, they lack concentration, and hedonia. And hedonia simply means the things that you originally enjoyed doing, you don't do anymore. Then sleep disturbances. So this is where there's insomnia or parasomnia, sweating, sweating of hands, the harsh treatment of others. And you also realize that there's also some symptoms of stress and anxiety in our children, such that, and let me just mention this, whereby you find if your kid, you find that nowadays they're having nightmares, or they're constantly crying, or let's say when you're dropping them off at school, you find that they don't want to, or maybe when you're going to pick them up, you find that they don't want to go to school, they don't want to go to school, or maybe they don't want to wake up in the morning to go to school. And if kids will not outrightly say that this is happening, or maybe they're getting bullied, or maybe they're being molested by a teacher, or by a fellow student. You find that this is very important. It is very important for us to notice if there's something out of the ordinary we have noticed in our children, or even the people around us. Right? So the biological aspect of stress increases hormones such as adrenaline, corticosterone, and which affect our metabolism, immune reactions, and other responses. So these responses can lead to increase in our heart rate, respiration, blood pressure, physical demands on our internal organ, such that you find that, let's say, when you are stressed, you are your mouth is dry, your heart is beating very fast. There's you just find you are hyper, and you find that, let's say, you are you bow, you feel like going to urinate, or you just you have loose bowels. Such things, such cells they notify us that we are probably getting anxious, or we are stressed at the moment, so we need to do something about it. So how can you manage stress? And one of the best way for me, let's say, just to mention, is avoiding escapist tactics of dealing with things that are troubling you, and being more assertive to handle them. It's the best way of handling stress. So escaping tactics involves, let's say, going to drink, or acknowledge, or trying to repress this memory, trying to run away from this. Because people who go to drink when they have an issue, when they have their stressor, when they've encountered a stressor, is basically they want to forget. And you see, when the effects of alcohol they wear off, when alcohol wears off from your system, the problem is still there. So you wouldn't have done anything to solve the problem. So you find that this person will go back to drinking so that they forget this thing that is troubling them. You find that by that they get into a cycle of addiction, a cycle of alcohol use disorder. And escaping tactics are the negative coping strategies like alcohol or substance abuse, drinking coffee, caffeine, overeating, or social media, or burying yourself into a such that you just decide to bury yourself into a, let's say, you propose to a girl, or you're having issues with your husband, and because you don't want to go home, you decide, let me bury myself into work, such that you're burning candles on both ends. And this will affect us in a negative way, such that we will not have a balanced work life. Then that is very important, such that we need to know to find ways in which how we can manage stress. And strategies for dealing with stress. What are the positive strategies we can use to deal with stress? Schedule time for vacation, breaks in your routine and hobbies. And this is what I was saying. Like, if you have leave days, let them be leave days. Even if you're not stressed, this time would be really important for you when you get back to work, and let's say when you when you become stressed sometime later, and try to arrange for an interrupted time to accomplish tasks that need your concentration, such that, let's say, you get to work and I have to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. such that you arrange your time. Be be organized such that I have 8 tasks and I have 8 hours to do this. So I'm going to see how many I can do faster and which ones will require my concentration too much. I mean, will require more time for me to such that arrange such that at the end of the day, when you're leaving work, you don't leave work with stress that I have this unfinished work, or you don't leave work because you've wasted a lot of time trying to you've wasted a lot of time at work, which you would have used in accomplishing the task that you are required. And this is where we say there's something called the parental 80/20 rule, such that it says that I know some of you are familiar with it, or most of you are, or even all of you are familiar with it, such that 80% of the things that we give most of our time in, they give us 20% satisfaction, or they are 20% by productive. But 20% of the things that we give less time to, they give us 80% satisfaction. So basically, what he's saying is that we schedule more time to the things that give us more maximum satisfaction, and less time to the things that give us, that are less productive. You can probably think about that, or you can read more about it. It's called the parental 80/20 rule. It is very, very interesting. So avoid scheduling too many meetings or appointments back to back. Give yourself breaks to catch your breath. Now this is these are the physical strategies you can use to manage stress, such that even, let's say, if you have a desk job and you're working from 8 to 4, every hour you could schedule 5 minutes break, such that you just walk around, go to the water point, then come back. It helps to it helps to it's I would say it's a point of catharsis. It just helps you to unwind. Then you get back to what you're doing to be more focused. It helps to deal with stress. Then become an expert at managing your time. Read books, watch movies, attend seminars on time management. It really helps. And this is self-development, such that become know how you can best manage your time, develop yourself further, then learn to say no, set limits. I mean, setting limits can manage your time. You can even learn to say no to your boss. There are skills that would help you to say no to your boss, and the boss would not fire you. Like, you say it in a assertive way, in a loving way, that I'm sorry, I cannot do this, but it's there's so many ways you can say no to your boss. And it's really interesting. I mean, I'm just trying to incite us to try and see there are other ways in which you can solve the issues that we're dealing with. Let's say, I mean, I know some would ask, what if my boss is the main stress at work? You could also learn how to manage. You could There are so many courses online, and I'll touch on that actually. So exercise regularly to reduce muscle tension and promote a sense of well-being. That is very important. And tap into your social support network, your family, your friends, your social groups, even your religious friends and your religious circles. They can help you deal with stressful events. Alternatively, you could choose to reach out to us for a therapy session. I mean, you can't go to the app, you can't select, and in a record of within 8 minutes, you'll be paired to a psychologist. And that is what we're saying. We're trying to revolutionize this mental health care, and you find that this is actually, I find one of the reasons why people don't really go for therapy is because of how expensive it is. But with the app, it's not really expensive. It is not that expensive, and you get quality health. You get quality mental health care, which is why it's very important for us. Let's say you don't have to be going through a hard situation for you to see a therapist. Anyone and everyone can go to a therapist. I also got for therapy sessions, just to help me, process whatever is happening around me, to help me think clearly. You don't have to be going through a hard time. But then, let's say you are going through a hard time. Now you have more reasons for you to go to a therapist, and be able to be helped out in a professional way. So, with that, I think I've come to the end of my presentation. So I don't know if there's any question, then I'll address it. Thank you so much. Hope I've been clear.
Thank you so much, Oscar Thiambo, for for that. I felt like you've handled such a big piece of important information, very compressed, I feel like we could have a seminar for this. And there are things that you just unravel that perhaps I'm sure people, if anybody has a questions, we'll be taking them at the end of the next presentation. Yes, but thank you so much, Oscar, for your time. I'm sure we'll be coming back to you. So allow me to introduce our next and final panelist. That is Yvonne Kajuju. Yvonne Kajuju. Yvonne, I think we can hear you in the background. Just hold on as I read.
Let me.
Yvonne,
Okay, a minute.
okay.
A
Give
minute.
me, all right. So as you settle down, Yvonne, allow me to read your bio. Yvonne
Okay.
Kajuju, fully qualified psychiatrist, clinical officer, registered with the Clinical Officers Council of Kenya. She holds an HND in clinical medicine and surgery in mental health and psychiatry from KMTC. Yvonne is also has also received training on non-communicable diseases like diabetes and hypertension from BE Wellness Initiative. She has trained as a family therapist at the Family Health Options Kenya. She currently works as a psychiatrist with Sasa Doctors. Yvonne works with an NGO in Nairobi focusing on treatment, mental health, sexual reproductive health, working with women and youth in the facility and in the community. She is bound by the professional regulations and ethical codes of conduct set by the Clinical Officers Council. Last but not least, Yvonne is committed to providing a high quality of care to all her clients with a warm and supportive therapeutic environment. Yvonne, when you're ready, the floor is yours. We're happy to have you. Karibu.
Thank you, Esther. Let me wait for the slides. So I'll be tackling the progressive workplace, and by this we'll be tackling the how changing the way we think about work and how to lower anxiety and stress at work. My colleague Oscar has talked more about stress, and now I'll tackle more about anxiety. And the agenda for today will be talking about work stress and anxiety, and the way is it worse than we thought, and the causes of work stress and anxiety at workplace, and how to create a work culture that will enable us tackle all those issues. So we are going to start with the demographics in the world. Currently, we don't have any demographics in the country, but we'll be using the US. So during the epidemic, we experienced workplace and stress anxiety. And in general, we had approximate 72% of the American employees who experienced daily stress and anxiety that interfered with the day-to-day lives. And in the job-related stress, it accounted for 40%. And furthermore, we account for 28% for people who are experiencing job-related anxiety and panic attacks even at their workplaces. So we are going to tackle next the causes of work stress and anxiety. So we have several causes, and we talk about what are the sources of stress and anxiety in the workplace. So most of the employees that were interviewed before were found to have some issues that were stressors in their workplace. And the biggest one, we found that deadlines in the workplace accounted for 55%, with interpersonal relationship with their colleagues accounting for 53%. The staff management accounting for 50%, and the issues with conflict resolution accounting for 49% in the workplace. So these stresses and anxiety, what are the impact in our workplaces? So as we have talked about the causes, what are the impact to our workers. So the impact of the work stress related stresses, they decrease productivity and performance, and also they interfere with interpersonal relationship with your colleagues. So what do we mean by talking about performance stress and production impact? So the employees identified the stresses causes to decrease their performance at work at 56%, with a decrease in the quality of work at 50%. Hereby is where you get a colleague who is stressed or anxious in their workplace. They will not perform as effective as the rest of the colleagues who are not having stresses. So they are going to deteriorate even in the performance rate. When you appraise them, you find that their performance is quite low. So it really, really affects their staffs. So the other thing that you're going to talk about is relationship stress and how does it impact us. So we have seen these trends at work, whereby we have issues with our colleagues, our bosses. So the relationship with the co-workers or the peers accounts for 51%, and hereby is whereby you cannot relate with your colleagues well, and it really, really drains even the company because you will not work as a team. The relationship with the supervisors also accounts for 43%. This is where we'll talk about supervisors who are very bossy. Remember, there is a difference between a leader, a boss, and also a ruler. So if you get a supervisor who is opposing, or who is always oppress his people, the people in the staff will have issues with their relationship. So it accounts for 43%. Then you'll see the staffs avoiding social issues like the yearly dinners that you have, like Christmas dinners. They'll even miss those meetings, and that will account for 73% of those workers. Some workers will also become short-tempered, making it 53%, a percentage of 53%, and not participating in meetings. So in these times we are talking about the COVID era, and this has made things worse in the workplace, and we will see how it has affected us in the workplace. So the next slide, please. So we've seen a lot of things changing in the workplace during the COVID era. And by this, I'm talking about how we had the social isolation and separation, where we were working from home. And here we had to know how to work with the virtual or having meetings through Zoom, so that we can be able to make our performances at work. So those were new things. And remember, even change can bring issues with stresses and anxiety at work. And always you are there being distracted. Maybe you are using your phone, you're having other texts, you're having maybe someone who wants to talk to you. They are going to distract you, and it's going to bring issues with your performance, and it's going to bring issues to stress and also anxiety in how you're going to perform. And it is all and COVID, another thing it brought is about issues with mental illnesses, whereby they were more seen during this COVID era, and everybody who was associated with COVID was somehow isolated with people. So it made things worse. So, in the data that we have, it showed that since the pandemic, 70% of the American workers reported to have the most stressful time in their career during the COVID time. And similarly, 88% of the workers had issues. They reported to be from moderate to extreme stress in the early months of the pandemic. And I can attest this to everyone, because you can remember people were talking about pay cuts, there were issues with even losing jobs, and all these issues brought a lot of issues dealing with stress and anxiety. So we're going to talk about burnout at work, and it usually accounts before COVID, it accounted for 42% of the burnout issues before COVID, and after COVID, it is shot up to 72%, and 92% of the reported are the reported cases are increased work duration and putting you can get the employers are giving targets that are not maybe achievable. So people have to push themselves so much so that they can achieve these targets. And I can give an example even with the student or the teachers. They are doing an extra mile more than what they were anticipated to do. Like they are getting the things that they can do in 1 year, they are doing it in less than even 9 months. So it is really, really affecting everyone. And we can understand the issues now that are causing the anxiety and stresses at work. So we need to rethink all these issues, and we have to change how we are going to help each other out. So the first thing that we need to think about is the workplace cultural impacts. And how are we going to do that? So when you talk about that, is that the stresses that we get at work usually makes us perform downwards, and chronic stresses makes a big list of issues that are going to delay our creativity and innovation. We can even get a mental block because we are really, really stressed, and you need to be really relaxed. Like my colleague Oscar talked about stress and how to manage stresses, and you can see that the survey accounts for 10% of the workers. They found that 10% of the people who are at work had issues because of the stresses. And you need also to think outside the box on how we are going to manage all these stresses. So how are we going to turn things around? So the first thing that you need to know is that the cause, as we talked about, is also the answer. So it starts with the work culture. How are we going to change all these things? We remember we talked about deadlines and how it was affecting us. So we need to change all those issues so that it can help us. So stress and anxiety do not come out of nowhere. They are ancient, and they are responses that the body shows us that there is a problem with the environment. So anxiety and stress is the body alert and tells us that there's something wrong. So the way we work, it really, really affects us in our issues with anxiety and stresses. Yes. So I'll give you a quote before we move on. And if you want someone to be creative, innovative, and productive in the work environment, you need to adopt a culture that fosters creativity, innovation, and production. So we need to understand our workers or our employees as employers, so that we can be able to foster an environment that will be very good to them, and it will make them have a creative, innovative, and productive way in the environment. So I'm going to talk about how we are going to change our culture. Hello, the next slide, please. So we need to talk about. We have talked about the causes and how we are going to change it, and we need to know how we're going to change our culture. And there are three questions that we need to ask ourselves: what are our organization values? Are those values decided upon us, or were we involved in making all these values? And who participated in making all those values? So if you understand that, then you as an employee, you can be able to manage yourself. And here we'll talk about freedom. As an employer, you're supposed to give your employees freedom. And what do I mean by talking about freedom? Freedom generates innovation, and it creates gen, it creates creativity. And by this, freedom is for everyone in the organization to express themselves, to give suggestions, to give them time to be able to think for themselves, to be able to create space for them to in creative thinking and innovation. And also the employer should be able to give them a listening ear for them to brainstorm, to have brainstorming sessions with them, so that they can hear what the employees want, or they can get involved in making decisions in the company. And is the employer craving out time in the innovation? Is the employer giving people time to innovate and have creative thinking among themselves? And remember, in freedom, you also have to give them a freedom to make mistakes. And By this, what do I mean by freedom to make mistake? Remember, like if you have to make something like 1,000 times, you will make the best one, which will be once, but you'll know ways to how to make it. You're not going to make it 1,999 times before you made it the best time. So how do we encourage our employers to make our employees to make mistakes? By encouraging them to have freedom to make mistake and stop worrying about something not getting perfect. We will not become we should not become perfectionists, and let the employee make at least a mistake so that they can know how they are going to make something the best way they can. And we also need to emphasize on learning instead of making people think they need to be perfectionists. The other thing, we need to redefine success, and this is how we redefine the issues with failure. Failure does not mean that you did not achieve it, but at least you made an effort to make something apart from making something and then you fail. So we need to redefine what success means, and this also cuts across even to our children. So the other thing that we need to think about is making a mistake shouldn't be viewed as making a mistake. It should be viewed as an opportunity to learn and grow. So in that, we need to know how to create an innovative culture. Next slide, please. So creating an innovative culture. So we need to know how to create an innovative culture. In this, we know innovation is usually it's like a change, and it's usually like evolution, whereby it takes time for it to change. So we should not get down with our mission or identity of an organization, but we need to make our mission of the organization to grow. We need to grow, to evolve and progress within a series of focused areas. Like most of the companies, you understand they have the vision, mission, and values. So you need to understand what is your mission so that you can grow, evolve, and progress. And the organization should also not be a reflection of what the people who should the organization should be a reflection of what the people that work in it, not the other way around. So you should be the role models as the employee and the employees of how you take your organization out there. So you need to be the reflection of how people see that organization. And you also have to set goals, and you need to define how you get those. You have to define how to get those goals as the end point. You have to know, how am I going to get to this goal? So we also need to know how leadership, as I talked earlier about bosses, leaders, and also rulers, we need to know what is effective leadership. So this comes across to the employers. How are you going to become a good leader so that you can enable the environment be not so stressful, or be anxious, your staff be very anxious to in the environment of the workplace. So we also need to know about effective leadership. So next slide. So, in the effective leadership, we need to empower everyone around you. So, if you are a leader, you need to empower everybody, even if it's their subordinate, you need to empower them. And you need also to create a culture that is collective in the management, and replace the need of hierarchy. So, you need to understand, am I talking to my boss in the top down approach, or is it a down top approach, or is it the horizontal approach that you're going to be making communication with your staff? Because when you make it an hierarchy, it will be very hard for you to manage your staff, because they'll fear you, they'll be anxious even to approach you. So you need to be very approachable by your staff. You need also to allow everybody to be participate in decision making, and this creates something we call buy-in. Everybody will own the organization, in that even those staffs, even the subordinates, they'll own that organization because they know that organization, they were given time to give their inputs and how did these input impact the company. So we need also to stop managing, and we need to start supporting. So here we need, as the leaders of the companies or the employers, we need to understand how are we going to support our staff, because at the end of the day, you cannot work alone. You need to support them and stop being managing. You don't need to be a manager. You need to listen to them, and you need also to give them a space where they can grow also. By this, I mean you pull back from the managed environment and reduce the need for management to create an environment for cooperation and teamwork. So, which questions should you ask yourself for effective leadership? You need to ask yourself this as an employer. Is your workplace cooperative? Who created the rules in those organizations? And is it a top down approach, or is it an horizontal approach, or is it a down top approach? So those are the questions that you need to answer to understand, so that you understand if you are making an effort in an effective leadership in your organization. So the other thing that my colleague talked about was work-life balance, and then I think most of you understood that because I didn't hear any question. So you need to understand work-life balance should be like in a the next slide. So the balance should you need to at least have a balance in your work and your life. That's why you don't need you don't need to sorry, you don't need to include each other. Like if you have issues in your family, do not bring them at work, and if you have issues at work, do not bring them at in your personal issues. And this also comes by we encourage people not to work from we don't encourage people to work when it's not supposed to be worked, as Oscar said before. And in this we also need to talk about as I'm finishing my slide, we need to talk about or see how we can emulate Google. Google has been one of the best companies in that it wins the best award in it wins the goods award because it incorporates their staffs. It gives them an environment that they can grow, they can be innovative, and they can work around the employees schedule. So you need to give them a fun environment, an environment that can bring maybe kids, like Safaricom did a while back. They can bring also pets. So, and also it gives them they give them trust, so that they can give them time even to risk take, because if you can't make a risk, you cannot know what you can achieve from that risk that you took. So with that, I'm done with my slides. Any questions?
Yvonne Kajuju, thank you so much. Very well spoken, and clearly, because some of these things is actually what every employer needs to hear, and every employee, um, and perhaps these are part of some training programs that every company needs to have. Maybe as we wait for questions, I have a few that I perhaps noted. I think between you and Oscar, yeah, let's see who can tackle this one well. How do you know when you actually need help? When you need to see a psychologist or psychiatrist, how do you know when you need help?
Okay, let me answer this. So, Oscar tackled some symptoms on how these issues in your life. So the thing that you need to know is, this work issues bringing you issues at home? Is it bringing issues maybe in your diet? Is it bringing issues in your sleep pattern? Because if you have issues with your sleep, diet, maybe you no longer like your hobbies, you need to seek help. That's the time that you need to seek help. But you need also, if the workplace is really stressful, maybe you need to talk to your HR, and the HR may maybe resolve it by even changing the workplace, or even a transfer can be very important. But if that cannot happen, you need to see psychology for counseling and give you some things to how to work how to tackle them hand in hand with you together.
All right, thank you so much, Yvonne, for that. Perhaps also to ask another question. Things like sleep paralysis and nightmares, are those a side of a mental disorder?
Hello? I
Hi, I
didn't
can
get
hear
that
you.
question.
When people have sleep paralysis or sleep nightmares, is that a sign of a mental disorder?
I didn't get that. Repeat.
Sleep paralysis.
Maybe I
You
can
know
answer
when.
that.
Sleep.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Oscar.
Okay. So you're asking whether sleep paralysis or nightmares they are signs of mental disorders. Okay, so it depends. It depends with it depends with the nature of the dream and the nature of the nightmare, because you realize that PTSD, when post-traumatic disorder, stress disorder, or any traumatic uh, disorder, they are traumatic disorders, any or even trauma. If you are exposed to, if you witness an accident or witness anything that is violent, you might have nightmares, right? But then we cannot qualify that. We cannot qualify that to a mental disorder, but uh, it needs to have supporting. Like it can tell us there's something to look at here, but then nightmares come as a result of so many things. Nightmares can be you see, now let me explain this. You see, the human mind is like an iceberg, right? So there's the conscious part, the unconscious part, then the subconscious, right? So the subconscious, that's where most of the repressed things they kind of, let's say for let me take an example of a 5-year-old who has been multiply abused, abused in life, such that because this memory presents something really, this is a bad memory for this person, so they will try and repress this memory, all right? And this is trauma, so they repress this memory and they don't want to remember what happened. So now, because during the day this thing is not on their conscious part, now when they go to sleep, the conscious comes to mind, such that it comes in terms of nightmares, it comes in terms of violent dreams. And now when you notice there's somebody who has been having when you notice there's somebody who has been having multiple bad dreams, and the theme is repeated. So as a psychologist, I'll be able to say there's something here. So we try and, something free association psychoanalysis, we try and see what this is all about. And when you're able to do that, this person is able to confront their past. And so I'm just what I'm trying to say is there are so many reasons why this would happen, but we cannot just necessarily say this is mental disorder. We have to do a lot of checks and, diagnosis for to come for a full diagnosis. Thank you. I don't know if I've answered.
Well, I think generally I've understood, but again, if anybody has a question, do feel free to come on the public chat. Just type it out there, and we're ready to be of assistance. Remember, we had three presenters, not well, five, because we had our Sharia manager. We did have our care coordinator team. We had the marketing manager from Sasa Doctors. We've had Oscar Thiambo and Yvonne Kajuju, and everybody did present on different items in regards to the different roles that they play that put together this webinar. And if you have any question for either one of them, we're happy to help. Remember, Stakafu will be planning. We will be planning. We'll be planning a conference, a conference, and of course, we'll go in deeper conversations about the areas that what is the takaful, who are we, how does it work, and we'll have a longer time for that. And with our partnership with Sasa Doctors, we're planning to have more webinars, to have more conversation, and also to understand that telemedicine is here with us, and it's very efficient and helps you access care. If you would want a general doctor, if you want a psychologist, a psychiatrist, a gynecologist, all of them are actually available on all these platforms. Maybe before I wind up, because I cannot see questions yet. Um, one last question that I've gotten is, I think Oscar perhaps expound on URES, because somebody wrote and said sometimes the example you gave, where a parent has stress because they have the responsibility of paying school fees, so they know they have to work hard to be able to have provision. But either way, depending on how the perspective of how somebody looks at a problem, it can be both distress or URES. So perhaps, and if you can give another example of URES, that would be good.
Oh, thank you for that question. So, okay, just as I was saying, it depends with the interpretation of anything. Like, a problem is not usually the problem, but our perspective about the problem is what makes it a problem. And that was a good thing picking it up. But let me give another example. So, another example of eustress is, let's say, you're told by your doctors you need to, let's say, you're trying to, let me say, cut weight, or you're trying to add weight. I don't know if that would count as good stress, but you would be you would be you would be motivated. I mean, this is something that, let's say, working out is something that stresses you, but you have to do it because it's for your beauty, for the better of, your health, or something like that. So by you doing that, yeah, even though it's stressing you, but you have to do that for your own good. So I don't know if that is a good example for the person who asked that question.
Well, if they have a follow-up questions, we are happy to address that. But I've also seen that we have posted two poll questions. The first one is, which areas of wellness would you like us to tackle in our next webinar? It's very important for us to know. That way, we arrange and organize webinars that are helpful for you. The second question was, would you like to learn more about Takaful Insurance of Africa products? It's a yes or no question. Let's take time and give response, and then we're able just to be guided and stay guided on the future of our webinars with Takaful Insurance of Africa. But seeing that I don't have questions on my chat, I hope I'm not. I think we had only one question from Wanjala saying that, can somebody record these presentations? Yes, this is a recorded session and it's going to be available on YouTube. So you can check our YouTube channel, Takaful Insurance of Africa, once it's done. Um, I feel well. I'll just do the vote of thanks, so that just to give a minute or two to anybody else, so that you don't feel left out. But allow me to do thank Mr. Mohammed Ali Dini, our Sharia compliance manager of Takaful Insurance of Africa, who gave the first conversation about who we are, what is our model like, and of course, if you want any information about that, we are ready to help. Philomena Thomas, our care coordinator at Takaful Insurance, thank you so much for your time and walking us through why such webinars are important to us. Mr. Eric Ndonye, the head of marketing and strategy at Sasa Doctor, thank you so much for introducing us to your team and letting us know the various and different types of access we have, whether it's physical or through online. We're able to access doctors. Oscar Othiombo, the counseling psychologist consultant. Thank you so much. Very helpful conversations we've had. And last but not least, Yvonne Kajuju, the psychiatrist clinical officer. Thank you so much for your time. Remember, Oscar and Yvonne are both on the panel of Sasa Doctor. And once you get on board, you will definitely be able to have access to them. Remember that you can download Sasa Doctors across
And make it
app. Yes. Help. Had somebody speak? And you can download Sasa Doctor app to get the quick access to a doctor's help. They are great partners with Takaful Insurance of Africa. And also, if you want to speak or buy any Takaful product, uh, you can visit our website, that is www.takafulafrica.co.ke, or you can call us on 0703 80 80 10. 0703 80 80 10. we are very happy to help. Having said that, I don't think I've left anybody out. Yes, I've seen my colleague has posted our website. Thank you so much for your time and everybody who did make their time to come on board to listen to the webinar. We are planning to have more in the future. Until next time, do have a very lovely evening. Goodbye.